Most firms survive, the best ones scale. Welcome to the Managing Partners Podcast, where law firm leaders learn to think bigger. I'm Kevin Daisey. Let's jump in. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you listening. Today, I got a friend of mine. She's also a client of mine, and just been awesome to get to know Leah, watch her grow. And she specializes in helping law firms with their finances. She's a fractional CFO. Great resource. And brought her on today. She's been on the show before, but we're going to be talking about budgeting. Super excellent topic. Everyone's so excited about, but super important. You know, obviously on the show, just try to cover important topics, things that you can apply, or things that you can go ask a professional that you've learned on this podcast. Say, hey, I heard about this. How do I do this? Reach out to Leah if she can be a resource to you. So Leah Miller, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me back. I'm excited.
Yeah,
Talk about the exciting world of budgeting.
And Leah is in Florida. She just moved recently. She's got a farm. You know, I think about Florida. I don't think about farms, but I've gone through the middle of Florida one time and I was like, man, there's farms and stuff everywhere.
Yeah, you can get away from the coast and have a little bit of land in the world of Florida. It's a
awesome.
fun place.
I still got to make my way to like the I guess the west coast of Florida I've never been to. So
yeah, it's
a good
place.
Well, you know, I want to have you at least, I give a quick introduction there, but I always let my guests to kind of tell more about themselves, kind of where your journey and what you do now to help law firms.
Okay, awesome. I started as a paralegal, kind of stumbled into being a legal assistant and realized that the legal field was where my passion was. So I went to school to be a paralegal. I was working at a personal injury firm. My goal one day was to manage a law firm, and I thought I would be older when that happened. Right place, right time, ended up managing a law firm when I was 27. And I really, my role grew at that firm. I was litigation paralegal. By the time I left, I was CFO, firm administrator, and it was a personal injury firm here in Florida. I loved it. Never thought I would do anything else. And then things started happening, like COVID happened and we were home for a while. I'm like, kind of was nice being home with my kids. And then a hurricane hit in late 2022 and we were displaced from our office and I was home with my kids again, working from home. But my role at the firm really wasn't like a work from home type of role. So kind of started exploring different things that I could do so I could be home with my kids a little bit more. And I started doing some financial consulting, bookkeeping on the side, and worked with some lawyers that I knew and realized that financial help was something a lot of law firm owners need. They're really great at what they do. They're really smart people, but running their business and using the financials to run their business was something that was really lacking in the community. And that's kind of where I found my passion. I love planning. I love doing budgets, and I love the legal field. So I went out on my own over 2 years ago. It's been about 2.5 years now. And started Firmly Profits, and we're a fractional CFO and bookkeeping firm that specializes in law firms. And so that's primarily what I do, is all law firms.
Yeah, I love it. And yeah, I think we met not too long after you started, and we connected on LinkedIn, I'm pretty sure, or through some other folks on LinkedIn. Great community on LinkedIn if you're not there. Me and Leah almost thought about talking about LinkedIn today, because we could talk about that and how that's impacted our businesses. But yeah, this is, you know, I have a mastermind of law firm owners that I meet with. It's all a community, and financials, budgeting, taxes. These are things that are constantly coming up in the group that people struggle with because they're good at being a lawyer. They might have someone that's doing their marketing. They might be good at a lot of things, but this seems to be the area that needs the most attention. And I know that's for my company and myself personally, is something that's always a struggle, and there's always something missing or something that you could do better. So I would say the budget part, I think the budgeting is really extremely hard, especially for like a contingency firm or one that doesn't have real great predictability or has ebbs and flows, big settlements. Like, how do you handle that and predict that and prepare for it? So I'm just excited for you to dive in and just give us some tips and what law firm owners should be thinking about. How should they get started with this if they don't have a budget in place? So yeah, just I'm here to share, to listen, I guess, and ask questions along the way. Thank you for tuning into the show today. I have taken things to the next level and I've started the Managing Partners Mastermind. We're a peer group of owners looking for connection, clarity, and growth strategies. So if you're looking to grow your law firm and not do it alone, please consider joining the group. Spots are limited, so I ask for anyone to reach out to me directly through LinkedIn, and we can set up a one-on-one call to make sure it's a fit. Now back to the show.
All right. So, my one thing that I always tell law firm owners, number one, if you do nothing else with your finances, I want you to look at your financial statements once a month. So, I'm assuming, if you have a bookkeeper that's outsourced or in house, they probably send you your profit and loss, your balance sheet, your statement of cash flows every month. You should be receiving those documents from somebody somehow. And I just want you as a law firm owner to look at the numbers and be aware of your revenue, whether it's consistent monthly or it's up and down, your expenses and your net profit, and just be aware of those numbers. So if you do nothing else from this call, from this podcast, I want you to just get in the habit of sitting down and looking at those financials every single month. I swear it will change the trajectory of your firm.
Yeah.
100%.
And then, as the leader, and I say the same thing about marketing. As the founder, the leader, you need to have your hands in some of this stuff, all of it. It's maybe you want to let go at some point when you have a C-suite of people, but you need to know the numbers. You need to understand these things. You don't need to know everything how it works, but you need to educate yourself on it. Same with marketing. You shouldn't have marketing just disconnected. It should be you understand what's going on at least to some level. You'd be surprised, Leah, like I'll have firms that reach out that want to maybe hire us for marketing and they need leads, right? And I say, all right, cool. How many leads do you get right now? From where? I don't know. I'm not sure. What's your revenue? Well, this year or last year or to date? And I'm like, give me anything you got. And they're like, oh, I'll have to look that up. I'll have to look that up for you. I'm like, okay. I can really immediately tell how sophisticated they are in their business, which impacts us, right? If they don't know how much a case is worth on average in whatever area of law, then how are they going to know that we're being successful for them? Is it 5,000 per case on average? Is it 20,000 per case on average? Is it low level speeding tickets and it's $500? What are we working with here? And it's really just me gauging, do they understand their business and do they have those financials at hand? And that makes me really be able to figure out, like, are they a good fit? Right. So it's
Would
interesting. I'm looking for
assume a
that.
lot of time I would assume a lot of times they don't know what their marketing budget is either.
They
So
don't
that
even
kinda
have
takes us
one.
back to, yeah, how much can we spend? So, there's several ways to do it, and there's the really just simple way I start with budgeting is I look at the average spend for last year. So what did we spend on software? Just take the average of everything and put it down there and then go through the expenses. So your wage expense, what you pay your people, that's a pretty fixed amount. You won't really need the average. You're going to put in like what you actually spend on payroll and
To
not
date,
just wages, taxes with it too. And then from
benefits,
there,
all that
yeah,
stuff, right?
and then from there, go each line item and just put, what you're spending, what you want to spend. And then that will give you what your break even is every month. You put in all your expenses, but you now see you have to make at least $100,000 a month just to keep your firm afloat. From there, we think about revenue. What is our revenue goal? If sometimes we'll start the conversation and you'll give me a revenue goal of 1.2 million. And then, we'll get to the end and our expenses come out to 1.4 million. So we're like, okay, we either have to cut some expenses or we have to increase the revenue. And so you kind of start doing this planning of what does it look like? And then the third piece of that is you need to know how much you need to make. So I start every call with new clients of what is your personal goal? Like, what do you as an owner need to make yearly, monthly? Like, I don't know. And so that's another number that a lot of people don't know. They just take money when there's cash available. And so if you say to me, Leah, I need to bring home $50,000 a month and your other expenses are 100,000 a month. Well, then our break even's now 150,000 a month. And so you can work backwards to what you want and you know what your revenue goal should be. And then that also gives you a place where you can say, okay, we can increase marketing. If I take 30,000 a month, then I can put 20,000 and we have a little bit more money there. And so we can start, looking at things. And so that's how I set up a budget. It's very interactive of let's start with the basics. And then from there, put in what we're actually spending, or what we know is coming up, or things that we want to budget for. We'll put those in there so that we can see, okay, we have to make a certain amount of money. Can we do that? And then, that's a whole other question of, can we generate that much revenue?
No, that's awesome. I think you gotta start somewhere and start with what you have and the history that you have. If, like, assuming you're not a news firm and just starting, it's interesting. I got a couple new firms that are talking to me right now that want to do marketing, and they have a budget, and they've been lawyers for a while. They're starting their own firms, and they're like, we're funded. They have a budget. They planned it out, which is they're way ahead of how other law firms start. Which is like, I'm just gonna hang my shingle and now all this stuff starts to happen to you. So yeah, I think getting a budget together, even if it's not as sophisticated at first, just what Leah's saying, like just look at what you're doing, work it backwards, try to figure out what kind of budget you do have. And, so people come to us and go, hey, Kevin, I need leads. Cool. What's your budget? I don't have one. Okay. What's your market? Let's look it up. Let's do some research and then go, well, if you don't spend at least this much, it's not even going to do anything for you. And so while the marketing companies might be able to give you if you have to spend this minimum, that just gives you a number to shoot for, but that might not be within your budget. It might not be possible. So what do you do from there? So, and then there's all the other things like tax savings. If you keep profit in your company and just leave it there, you're paying taxes on it no matter what. Versus you reinvest it back in your business and note that you invested that back, and you're going to not get taxed on that money, and you can use it towards other things. So
Well, and that's a conversation I have sometimes with marketing. Like, I will talk to the marketing professionals that work with my clients, and I'll say, okay, we're like, these are our goals. We need to 2x our revenue by the next 2 years. And so we know we need to do this. How much money do you need? We're currently spending 10,000 a month. How much do you need? And they'll come back and say, we need to spend 25,000 a month. Okay, so we will go revisit the budget. And that's when I try to educate my clients instead of just telling them what to do. And so again, if you tell me you need 50,000 a month, your marketing people need 25,000 a month, and we have all these other expenses, we're going to have to cut somewhere until that revenue catches up, because there's going to be a lag time, especially with the marketing. And so we have to plan for that and decide, what can we live with now? What do we need to do? But all this does is it gives you the knowledge of like where you are with the finances. And again, just knowing the numbers will change your business drastically, because things will follow. Like, there's no big aha, like, let's make this change and everything will work out. It's knowing the numbers and making strategic decisions based on those numbers of, we need 25,000 for marketing. Okay, let's cut 10,000 here. Let's, increase. If we just bill 10 more hours next month, then we can increase our revenue to cover that. And you make all these little changes, and then that's how you see the sustained growth in your firm.
yeah, that's awesome. And then, I guess it also could be like a ramp up, right? Hey, we can't get the 25 grand right now, but we're working towards a goal. The other thing too is I just had an awesome guest on who founded Esquire Bank. They work with contingency firms specifically,
Hmm.
but you got to put a ton of money into cases and funding them, which might take 6 months to 2 years to settle or close the trial. You can use your own cash, and that way, and your marketing is not going to grow because you're cash strapped. Or you can use debt to fund the cases and to grow and keep it going. So there's all kinds of strategies out there as well, I guess, to grow and leverage other people's capital at the same time. So there's all kinds of cool things that I'm learning about, um,
Yeah,
but
I
yes.
work with a lot of my clients work with Esquire.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's a good idea in a lot of situations. But again, it's one of those, you can't use that debt and then not pay attention to the finances going forward, because it's very easy to get underneath it and not be prepared. And so I always caution, like, that's where we have the budget. And especially with firms. So a lot of times they work with contingency fee firms, so personal injury firms, things like that. And there is up and down cash flow. So how do we budget for that? And that's where we go back to, what is that break even number? We need to make, at least 150,000 a month just to keep the doors open and pay us what we need to be paid and pay for that marketing and do, all that stuff. If you know that number, then you can, one, save cash, have cash reserves. And if you don't know that number, you don't know how much cash to save. And so I see people who, they feel like they have a lot of cash in the bank. And then we break it down and I'm like, you have a month and a half's worth of cash. If you don't settle any cases for a month and a half, we get to 2 months, you're out of cash. Or I have clients on the flip side who I'll start working with them and they have way too much cash saved. They don't want to spend the money on the marketing and things like that. And so knowing, like putting that budget together, and then the next part of it is actually looking at it every month. So you put it together and then every month you review it and you're like, okay, we said we were going to spend 25,000 on marketing. We only spent 10. What is our ramp up plan? Or we spent $10,000 on subscriptions, but we were only supposed to spend 2 on subscriptions. What subscription was there? Okay, that's when we were expecting. Like, that's fine. So those are the kinds of things you need to look at, especially when you are in a firm that has up and down income, like revenue, so that you can plan for those down months and you have cash saved up. Or you can have a loan with Esquire and things like that. Like you can have lines of credit to fall back on if needed, but then you know how much you need.
Yeah, and then I think to your point too, is if you said, "Hey, we're supposed to be spending this much on marketing," like, you wanna spend it. You don't wanna be like, "Well, we're just gonna save that, we didn't need to." No, we're trying to grow, here's our goals, and this is meant to be spent. And yeah, if you have those ebbs and flows, what is for you, what are you looking for a firm to have cash on hand? How many months for them to run on?
So, had a couple conversations about this today. So, personal injury firms that run on contingency, I want to see 3 to 6 months. I think 3 months is fine. I always ask, is there a way to infuse cash back into the firm if we need to? So, do we have a line of credit? Do we have personal money? Like, worst case scenario, if like we need money, can we? And some firms, yes, and some firms there's not. So we need a little bit more safe. And at the same time, I like the personal injury firms or the contingency fee firms to look ahead and think, what does our next quarter look like with cases? Yes, I understand you cannot predict when the case is going to settle and exactly how much it's going to settle for. But if you've done it long enough, you can get a pretty good idea of these cases are most likely going to settle in quarter one. Okay, like we have enough cash, or we have nothing settling in quarter one except for a little one here and there. We need to make sure we're really being good about that 3 months of cash. On the flip side, if you're a firm that bills hourly and you're invoicing clients every month and you have a pretty good collection rate, we can get away with, 1, 2 months. I still like 3 months, but I don't think you need more than 3 months saved if you have that steady flow of clients on retainer. You obviously need to, if you're settling cases, and like you need to have more cases coming in than going out to keep up that flow of cash, but you have a little bit more wiggle room because if you're billing hourly and you need cash next month, as long as you have the clients to bill for, you can go bill and get that done. Whereas your contingency fee firm, you can't decide today you need cash tomorrow because
Yeah.
you're not going to have cash for 6 to 8 months, 12 months.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's easy for like me or Leah where we have clients signed up on retainer, right? Pretty predictable. So yeah, that's interesting. For us, I know we have a monthly financial meeting where we bring everyone in a room and we got a spreadsheet and reports and all that stuff. And we see like cash on hand, how many months we're running, we could run on, and then all the other stuff too, like, profit, net, everything like that, evaluation, company value, all that kind of stuff. So that is something you definitely want to have, even if they're basic, like you're saying, P&L. What is the other one? So P&L,
Balance sheet,
balance sheet.
statement of cash flow.
Yeah.
And then
Every single month.
if you don't understand those, that's when you find somebody to meet with you. And a lot of times what I do for clients is I almost force them to meet. Well, I do force them to meet with me because when I talk to people, I say, I will meet with you at least once a month. And I say at least because it's hard to get lawyers to like focus for an hour on this stuff. We are going to meet once a month and go through all of this. And I'm going to make sure you understand it. And then we're going to talk about what's coming up. And it's always something different. Are we hiring somebody? Should we spend more on marketing? I always ask the question, is the marketing working? So, we're talking every month about increasing the marketing budget. I'm going to remind you to go back to your marketing people and say, like, we're spending, $20,000 more a month for the last 6 months. Is it working?
Yeah.
Or is it not?
Is the strategy right? The spend's one thing, but how you're spending it and what you're doing should tweak and change if it's not hitting the mark. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, so if you're not looking at this stuff, you don't know anything. When we look at we make changes to our P&L every single month. We go, what is that? Why is that categorized there? Well, that should be under here. Hey, what about this new thing that we added? That's not even on here. Okay, yeah. And then my financial admin in house makes a ton of notes, and then we next time we have all those changes made because every month there's something that's different.
Well, and then you get to the end of the year. One, you can make decisions as you're going because you cannot make financial operational decisions based on the finances if you don't even know what the finances are. But then when you get to the end of the year, you're not stressing about like, oh, I need to get my taxes together. I need to get this. Like you've done it all year long. You know what's happening. Like I right now I'm having the conversation with clients of we're about to finish Q3 and your net income is 580,000 for the year. Like, you've got a tax bill coming. So let's talk to our tax planner about how we can decrease the tax bill before the end of the year because you only have until the end of the year to make changes a lot of times, and let's save some money because we're getting to the end of the year where firm owners are like, I want to take some profit out of the business. Fantastic. I want you to take profit out of the business, but we need to save for taxes. We need to have enough to go into the new year. We need to, invest in a couple things into the business. Instead of making gut decisions based on the cash you have in the bank right now, you're making really strategic decisions based on the financials. And that is what will give you the long-term sustained growth in the firm.
Yeah, and then I've been learning so much about just the tax strategies that you can do as a business owner. Hey, you're going to be stuck with a big bill of 200 grand, so go buy a rental property or reinvest it back in your company or put it in a 401k or your kids' Roth IRA. There's all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's the Augusta rule to rent your house out to yourself for business meetings. So there's all these tax things that you can take advantage of. If you don't know any of that stuff or have someone like Leah to talk to, then you're just taking money and you're giving a lot of it back in taxes.
I would also caution you when you start doing those things. So I work with financial planners and tax strategists with my clients is your financial planner is thinking about how much money we can put into your like financial future. Your tax strategist is like, how much money can I save you on your taxes? And then I'm thinking cash flow because a lot of those different things you can do takes a lot of cash out of the business, and you want to make sure there's enough cash left in the business to get you through the first couple months of next year. And so you have to
Yeah.
have all these people thinking about it and talking about it because, and going back to the budget, you need to know how much it's going to cost you to run your firm. Because if your tax guy's like, hey, do this thing and buy this thing for 200,000, and your financial advisor's like, let's max out the profit sharing plan. It's going to cost you 300,000. And I'm like, you need 300,000 to get through the first 3 months of next year. Like, you don't have enough cash for all of that. And so you have to make sure all these people are talking so that you know you have enough cash because there's a difference between financials on paper and what's actually like cash available. And so it's a hard thing, you look at your P&L and L and you see a net profit on the bottom. That doesn't include everything all the time. And so that's a hard thing to realize. And so you need all these people to think about all these different things for you.
I'm glad you said that. Yeah, no one could do any of those things that I said without on your own. No, it's you're 100% right. Everyone has their reason, right? If you have a business attorney for your business, they're trying to protect your business. The financial planner is trying to, grow your wealth, and the tax strategist is trying to save as much taxes. Everyone has their place. They might, if they're not talking to the others, then there definitely could be a conflict there. Especially your CFO or your financial admin, whoever. You need to run all this through by them. Hey, by the way, I spent 200,000 every year. What are you talking about? Yeah. So, yeah, that's a very good point. It
I
takes
say it because I've seen it happen.
it takes a village.
It does. It
Yeah, and
does.
not to be overwhelmed, obviously, I talk to a lot of firms that are just starting out or just getting going, and I just tell them how important it is to start having these conversations now because you get busy, you add a few people, next thing you know, your books are a mess, you haven't done reporting, you don't have a budget, and now you're just stuck in the day-to-day grind. And then you're like, I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to meet with Leah. I don't have time to pull this stuff together. So just, and that's based on my experience too. Start doing as much as you can, learn as much as you can, bring people to help you. That's why it's great to have a fractional. Like you can't afford a CFO internally. Like that doesn't make any sense for most firms. So it's all education. And I used to hate the numbers, just I don't really care about that kind of stuff and spreadsheets. I'm not an analytical guy, but the more you understand them, the more I like it. So,
You can make operation like it makes the operational decisions less overwhelming when you understand why. And honestly, like, just it helps all of it run together and helps you feel more confident in the operational decisions you're making because you know the goals of the firm, you know the values of the firm, like all of that stuff that you should know and do in your firm. And if you start making decisions based on like the values, the goals, the financials, then you can feel good about the decisions that you're making for the firm because long term, that's the best thing for the firm, even if it's like kind of crappy in the time being.
Well, as an entrepreneur, as an owner, you're usually breaking crap and making decisions and not really having much to go on. I want to do this, or I have this much cash over here. I'm gonna go do this. It's a lot better to be like, oh, I can go do this. Awesome. Yep. Leah's gonna say, go do this. It's a great decision. Here's all the information backing up that decision. That feels a lot better than just like, running and breaking stuff and not really sure if that was the best decision. And
Well,
sometimes you have that. Oh, that was a
yeah,
bad decision, you know?
I tell people all the time, like, I don't judge. Some people like are like, they don't want to tell me certain things they want to spend money on or whatever, but I don't judge what you want to spend money on. I want to help you understand why it's a good or a bad decision. So again, if you come and tell me, "Hey, Leah, I need to make $50,000 a month," and you're only bringing in $100,000 a month, then like, let's talk about it. Here's what you have to give up. You're going to have to do extra work because you're not going to be able to hire this person. These are the things you're going to have slower growth because you can't put as much into your marketing. Like I'm not going to like judge you for what you want to spend money on. I want you to understand the give and take and how it works so that you can make the decision of, oh, if I just take 45,000 a month and I figure out how to live off of 45,000 a month, that gives me an extra 5 to hire this person and then that's the next step. And so that's what I help people understand and I don't, like I'm not going to judge you. So I just want you to understand it.
Yeah, I was, true story, this morning I was talking to a tax person, and it was like, "Yeah, I'm trying to buy a new truck. I've had my same truck for 8 years. It's getting to the point where, if anything breaks, it's past warranty, and I usually offload vehicles before 100,000 miles." I was like, 8 years, my income's gone up considerably since I bought that truck, and it's still valuable, so I'm gonna get a lot for it. So, but I'm like, "I'm telling you all first before I do that." And they're like, "Cool, no problem, but are you gonna get an asset that's gonna cash flow to pay for that new truck?" And I'm like, damn it." So they're like, "Yeah, just don't go do it because you want to. Like, you should plan out how you're going to do it. Does it make sense?" And at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, go do that. And we can write that off. Buy a truck that's 6,000 pounds, can we write it off under one of your businesses? So yeah, it's making smart decisions instead of rash decisions. And I think if you have the numbers in front of you and you understand them, it's going to give you that ability to do that. So, and have someone like Leah to smack you around a little bit. And
So, I mean, I tell people no sometimes. I'm like, that really isn't a good idea right now. But if you really want to do that, this is what might happen. And they're like, oh, thank you. I needed somebody to tell me that. And so I'm that outside person that does not have the emotional attachment to your money that you do. I want you to succeed. I love when when law firm clients are like, "Hey, we settled this case." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing." Like I love it. But at the same time, I'm not emotionally attached to your money like you are, so I can objectively say, "Hey, that's really just not a great idea right now." And they're like, "Oh yeah, thank you."
just hiring Leah might be worth it just for that. Just to tell you not to spend money on stupid stuff. That's awesome. No, I mean, this is so important, and again, the smaller you are, the more important that is to start to understand this stuff, to have someone, doing your bookkeeping, to have someone do a financial meeting with you, look at your finances once a month. And again, if you're a solo, just starting to understand this and get in the habit and have some education around it so that when you do hire people or bring people in, or if you get to the point where you have a in-house CFO, you're that big, you still, as a business owner, need to have some understanding about it, because you're going to need to be part of those meetings. So, well, Leah, I love it. It's awesome to watch you grow and what you've done. And, of course, we work with you on your stuff, and
Yes.
we appreciate that.
Always good. Always good. Love Array.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's been awesome to watch you grow fast and what you're doing. So always singing your praises. Anyone needs financial help, fractional CFO, a second set of eyes, bookkeeping. What's all the other services that you offer?
Yeah, I have a whole bookkeeping team. So I have a bookkeeping team and we can take bookkeeping clients just starting out or established and then CFO clients as well. And I handle all of those myself. So love doing
You
client
get Leah.
meetings and yeah, you get me for a fractional CFO client.
You better sign up soon because at some point you might not get Leah.
Well, yeah, I'm getting close to capacity on that, but I always love talking to people. I will always do a free consultation. Like Kevin said, I'm on LinkedIn, so I always like to share bits and pieces of things on LinkedIn, because I just want law firm owners to be educated when it comes to their finances.
Well, Leah, I appreciate you coming on to share. It's important stuff. Not always the funnest conversation, but it's again, as you learn it and understand it, you start to appreciate it, and it gives you the tools you need to make decisions. Yeah, connect with Leah, reach out. She's all over LinkedIn, always posting great stuff. That's just going to be helpful if you just want to follow her.
Mhm.
Just look up Leah Miller. And then, of course, if you want a personal introduction or referral to her directly by email, let me know and I'll make it happen.
Thank
All
you.
right, Leah, anything else you want to share before we roll?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Good to see you. And I'm sure I'll see you soon in other circles, conferences, things like that. So, everyone, hey, thanks so much for tuning in. Hope you found this helpful and connect with Leah, please. She's going to, actually, this way, she's going to help you either way. So, we'll see you soon on the next episode.
Thanks.